Board of Appeals. In our capacity, we hear petitions for relief from the strict provisions of our city ordinance. In matters of this type, the decision of the board is final in respect it does not go to the mayor or the city council for any further action. If you disagree with our decision, you do have recourse in a court of record. We also hear petitions for variations of land use. In matters of this type, we act as an advisory board to the mayor and city council, making a recommendation either for or against it. Final decision on land use is made by the mayor and the city council. Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Safford? Here. Mr. Lucio?
Here.
Mr. McShane?
Here.
Mr. Noctree?
Here.
Mr. Riggs? Ms. Rohr? Here. Mr. Hennessy?
Here.
First order of business would be to approve the November 18th minutes from your meeting.
Any objections? Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Poll the board.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctree?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr? Aye. Ms. Safford? Aye. Mr. Lucio?
I abstain as I was not here.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye.
Next order of business on the agenda would be citizens to be heard on the agenda items. This section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding items listed on the agenda. Anyone speaking on agenda items is entitled to speak for a maximum of 4 minutes. It is not a question and answer period, and staff in the Zoning Board of Appeals does not generally respond to public comments. Please note speakers who engage in conduct injurious to the harmony of the Zoning Board of Appeals shall be called to order by the presiding officer and may forfeit the opportunity to speak. Is there anyone that would like to speak on an agenda item? Please note that you'll also have an opportunity when that item is called under normal business. Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Did you have your hand up, sir?
I did, but if I'm going to be allowed to address, this is on the level on Broadway. I'm going to be allowed
You can
to-
speak on that when the petition is called, or you can come forward now, whichever you prefer. Okay. That it?
Seeing none, we could move on to old business under public hearing. Petition number 2021-02.
There's a lady over here, Jim, I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
Did you wish to speak now? Or do you want it when it comes up? Okay.
You'd be allowed to speak now, or she wants to speak after the staff report is read? Okay. So 2021-02, the applicant is Abraham Garcia. The location is 1101 North Broadway Street. The request is an extension of a special use permit, ordinance number 18238, for a light truck, tractor, cab, tire repair and maintenance facility. Under purpose, the property and business owner, Abraham Garcia, is requesting an extension of a special use permit, ordinance number 18238, for a light truck, tractor, cab, tire repair and maintenance facility located at 1101 North Broadway Street. The petitioner's owners, Alejandro and Abraham Garcia, bought the former Martinson Tire Service property for a light truck, tractor, cab, tire repair facility in the spring of 2020. At that time, they understood that large truck tire repair was not a permitted use on the property. Since buying the property, they operated a tire business that kept within the pre-existing circa 1983 approvals for this site. They made numerous improvements to the property since their purchase, including updates to both buildings, removing junk and debris, and new paving on parts of the property. At the June 15, 2021 City Council meeting, the owners obtained City Council approval to add the light truck, tractor, cab, tire repair services at this location. The approved special use permit and variation of use specified several mandatory conditions that needed to be completed within 90 days of the special use permit approval. In addition, the approvals included the city's standard special use permit condition that a building permit or certificate of occupancy must be obtained no later than 180 days of the effective date of the special use permit ordinance, and that the erection or alteration of the building site is started or the use is commenced within such period. Other than obtaining a building permit and erecting a 6-foot high solid privacy fence, as well as painting the existing light and sign poles and screening the dumpster, the property owner has not completed the mandatory conditions of approval within the 90 or 100-day time frame. 180 days from June 15th would be December 15th, 2021. Letter is attached from the petitioner's attorney explaining that site development plans have taken longer than anticipated due to non-response from the original engineering firm hired by the petitioner, resulting in a delay in completing the required site improvements. There are 2 manholes in the public way adjacent to the property, and the mandatory conditions require that the owner complete curbing, sidewalk, and landscape work in the public way and on the property. Property owner cannot obtain a building permit for the site work until a professional site plan is approved by Public Works. Property owner submitted evidence to staff that he engaged an engineer firm in the summer of 2021 to complete the site plan and paid the company a deposit. However, this company did not complete the requested site plan during the time frame specified by the special use permit ordinance. Property owner engaged the services of Geotech, a local engineering company, on November 18th, 2021 to complete the required site plan, and receipt of payment is attached. Geotech has stated to city staff that they are in the process of preparing a site plan for the property owner. However, Geotech indicated that they would not have the draft site plan ready in time for the December 16th zoning board meeting due to their workload demands. Zoning Board of Appeals makes the final decision on the extension request. If approved, the extension would allow a new construction start date by June 16th, 2022. It will not be feasible for the property owner to make the required improvements until the ground thaws. However, the owner is confident that he can complete all the pre-planning work in the meantime. Planning staff is in favor of this extension request since completing the mandatory site improvements will benefit the property and neighborhood as well. As indicated above, the property owner could still operate a tire repair shop under the previous approvals from 1983 without completing additional site work. The original staff report and supporting attachments from the petitioner are attached here too. Under conditions, if the proposed special use permit extension is approved by the zoning board, the following conditions will still be included. 1, that a landscape plan that references the conceptual site plan shall be submitted to and approved by the planning division within 60 days of ordinance approval, detailing conditions number 2 and number 7 which are in process. Under 2, the area of asphalt pavement located at the intersection of Broadway Street and Hutchins Street shall be removed and defined by barrier curbing per the city's landscape and screening regulations within 90 days of ordinance and approval. That an appropriate 4-foot wide landscape buffer along the south property line shall be installed and defined by barrier curbing per the city's landscape and screening regulations within 90 days of ordinance approval. 4, that a 4-foot wide sidewalk shall be installed within the city parkway along Hutchins Street within 90 days of ordinance approval. 5, that the remaining paved parkway along Hutchins Street and the southeast corner of the property along Broadway Street shall be removed and returned to sod within 90 days of ordinance approval if existing drainage allows. 6, that a 6-foot high solid privacy fence shall be installed to replace the existing 4-foot high chain link fence along the north property line within 90 days of ordinance approval. This condition has already been completed. 7, that the dumpster shall be screened by either a 6-foot high solid fence with a locking gate within 60 days of ordinance approval, or shall be placed in the existing screened area behind the buildings and wheeled out only on collection days. This has been completed also. The dumpster is within that current screened back area. 8, that all existing light and sign poles shall be cleaned and repainted within 90 days of ordinance approval. This has also been completed. 9, that the paved parking lot shall be striped per the approved conceptual site plan. 10, that no outside storage of customer vehicles shall be allowed on the city parkway or city streets. 11, temporary outdoor storage of trucks and trailers awaiting to be serviced or to be picked up shall be limited to 10 days. 12, no temporary or long-term outdoor storage of inoperable vehicles, boats, recreational vehicles, or parts, including tires, shall be permitted. 13, that off-street parking shall remain in the future. 14, that a city business license shall be secured prior to opening. 15 is our normal standard condition that the special use granted shall herein terminate and lapse unless a building permit or certificate of occupancy is obtained no later than 180 days of effective date of this ordinance, and the erection or alteration of the building is started or the use is commenced within such period. And this is what we're doing now. The board may grant an extension of this period valid no more than 180 days additional days upon written application and good cause shown without notice or hearing. Whether or not there is an intention to abandon the special use, if any special use is discontinued for a continuous period of 1 year, or if an intent to abandon the special use is evident in a shorter period of time, special use for such use shall become void, and such use shall not thereafter be reestablished unless a new special use permit is obtained. 16, failure to comply with any of the above conditions could result in a rehearing and a possible revocation of the special use permit. And 17, should the property be declared a public nuisance by the city council, the property could be subject to rehearing and possible revocation of the variation of use. And so I would just like to add that, we're just doing the extension to allow the larger truck repair here. Staff is not opposed to it, although we opposed the original request. And we understand that the zoning board also was in opposition to the original request. The city council approved them to do the larger trucks. The ordinance stipulated certain conditions of that ordinance, and to their own fault, or the fault of the engineer that they hired, they did not complete those improvements in the time period that they were supposed to. So with all that kept in mind, the only thing that you are extending is the large or truck repair use. If the extension was not granted for some reason, he could still continue doing what Martinson Tire Repair did since 1983. And if the extension was not granted, he could do the smaller tire repair and there'd be no more improvements to the site. So I just wanted you all to keep that in mind when, considering this. Like I said, we were not in favor of it originally. We know you weren't either, but just keep in mind that the city council approved it, and all we're dealing with now is the extension for the larger trucks. And with that, I conclude the staff report.
Can we ask him a question?
Sure.
Go ahead. Jim, would you repeat what would happen if this body all disapproved it again? I don't know that would happen.
The only thing you would be denying this applicant is the right to work on larger trucks, tractors, the large semi-tractors. He could still continue to work on box trucks and lighter trucks and cars and so forth, much like Martinson did since 1983 when he received those original approvals. So the only thing you would be denying is his right to work on those larger trucks. And if you did that, there would be no more improvements to this site. He could continue doing the lighter trucks, no more additional improvements to this site if you denied his extension.
Is it possible to separate the two issues without giving up the
I'm sorry, what's the
improvements
question?
that still need to be done?
Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I caught that, Ed.
I agree with everything you've said so far. But we have in here a request by the city, I suppose, to continue on with the improvements to the property that were originally stated in the original petition. Can we separate that from the larger tire thing, or do they have to go together?
They would go
Could
together.
we say we want the
Yeah.
improvements done, but not?
Without the extension, there'd be no more improvements.
So they have to go together.
They go together.
So that, in other words, the only thing we're doing here today really is making them impose the conditions that we previously originally asked for.
That we made of,
And that
yeah,
no matter what
condition
we
of
do,
the ordinance that
operation is going
received
to
approval.
continue. There's, outside of our hands, we were overridden by the council on a supermajority vote when this zoning board denied the petition originally. So all we're doing here today is asking that the conditions that were stated, improvements to the property, paving, sidewalks, landscaping, that type of thing, be done. That's all this board is up to today. We don't have any power or capacity to stop the operation.
With that, you should probably, call the petitioner
Yeah.
and call anybody here in
Yeah, we'll go
attendance
through
that
it.
wants to
Is
speak on
Petitioner
it.
present. Want to come forward? I must swear you in, sir. You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law.
I do.
Name and address, please.
Sir, my name is Joe Mazzoni. I'm gonna drop this just a little bit so I don't hear myself. Sir, you were correct in your determination that this is simply for an extension of time to perform these improvements. My client was present here with his wife and daughter. He had attempted and engaged, as you saw in the packet in the letter that I sent you, Lucid Engineering in Bloomingdale, who continually promised them that they would get the site plan done. The conditions that have not been met yet in the recommendations by staff are conditions that require that site plan. Paving, sidewalks, landscaping, etc. And those could not be done without a site plan. Becoming frustrated with the engineering firm that he had engaged, he spoke with staff, and hence we have a geotech who's come in and are relatively close. There have been a number, sir, of delays in this, because we're not here to talk about whether he should or whether he shouldn't. The council listened to his concerns and listened to the concerns of the neighborhood, listened to the equipment that he purchased to make sure it's quiet, listened to the fact that he thought that the max that he could do was about 4 trucks a day if he's working really, really well. They also heard that the traffic along Broadway on a daily basis is about 35,000 vehicles that go past that intersection every day. He's not going to have the trailers in there, but simply just the tractors. And they found that that wasn't a significant burden or increase in the traffic on Broadway. But like a lot of companies, they're having problems with COVID-related issues. For equipment, for personnel, people working at home, making the process a little bit more tedious and time-consuming. When he finally was told by Lucid Engineering that they now could not do the job because they couldn't do it in a timely basis, now they couldn't do it, period, he immediately engaged another engineering firm, and we should have a site plan for the city, probably within the next couple of weeks. They couldn't produce it by today, as staff noted, but your staff has been continually involved in this. Mr. Garcia and his family who run this operation have made all of the improvements that they could make without the site plan. The sidewalk and asphalt, parking lines, landscaping, all need to be approved before they can be done. I'm not sure, one of the reasons for the delay was to let the ground thaw out, but we've had such a winter here, I'm not sure it's going to freeze. So weather permitting, this work will move along much more quickly if we continue with the 40s and 50s and even 60s that we've experienced over the last several weeks. So I would respectfully request and state to this commission that Mr. Garcia has done the best he could to comply with the timely requirement. But some of those delays have been beyond his control, and that with some consideration by this commission, he will have this place looking very good and in comport with the staff's recommendations, which were the original ones. So I think that you're correct in the assessment that this is about those improvements, and he fully intends, we're looking at material delays. Certainly, as all of you probably know, the cost of these materials have gone skyrocketing. Things that lumber is twice as much as it used to be, 3 times as much. So So he certainly has every intent to comply. If the extension is granted, you will see improvements. As soon as the site plan is done, improvements will begin immediately.
Thank you.
Then I request that you approve the extension.
Any questions by the board? Comments? It seems to me to have been pretty true and accurate.
Thank you.
Kind of productive, I think, too.
Ed, you should see if there's anyone else in attendance that
Yeah.
wants to speak.
Em, do you want to come forward? I'll swear you in. You swear the evidence you are about to present to be the truth under penalty of law.
Yes.
Name and address. Speak into the mic, please.
My name is Georgine Williams. I'm at Elizabeth Street, and I, for 25 years, has been a spokesperson for my area. I've started a neighborhood watch, and they depend on me. Some of the people are handicapped now. One man is sick. Mr. Sirdar called in a report, and he was promised that you would read it. When the city council met, I had a petition from the 1100 block of Broadway. That wasn't even looked at. They didn't care. They didn't talk to any of these people. They just talked to his people. If you can look at this lot, now imagine sidewalk, landscaping, and everything that has to go in there, plus people's cars. There's one way in and it's the same way out. People on the 1100 block have a problem with semis in there. We think it's too small. There's too many semis down there as is. Now, he had all summer to paint the poles, and when it came up at the city council that he had to put cover on the dumpsters, all of a sudden that was done. Then the poles were painted, and then that fence was put up. But look at the fence. It's not a professional fence, and it just ends, and then it goes into the cyclone fence with strips. That's not causing, giving people privacy or putting the sound down. So I think he's had plenty of time to do something. You don't need a permit to paint a pole or to fence in a dumpster. So we're opposed to it mainly because it's on a residential street. The semi-tractors are going to be pulling right in there, and there's plenty of truck traffic on Broadway now. So please consider the people on the 1100 block of Broadway. And if you look at that now, you can see how big this lot is and all the cars on it right now. Where are they gonna go? And what are you gonna do with the snow? With all the landscaping and everything in there, that's gonna cut that lot way down with all the people parked there, plus the snow. We think it's gonna be a safety hazard. We're not opposed to him doing the regular tires. It's the semis that they're opposed to. So thank you very much for letting me speak, for the work you do. Have a happy holiday and stay safe.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? To the board, any questions or comments?
We have one more. Ed.
What you want? Raise your hand. Do you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes,
Name and address.
Abraham Garcia, and I'm the petitioner 1101 North Broadway. First of all, I wanted to talk about the screening. Actually, Mr. Jim Torrey and Jane reached out to me, I believe, at the end of July, when we had it approved by City Council to go ahead and either build a screening, that they would approve it, that we would submit some type of site plan to build a screening, or Mr. Jim Torrey said, hey, you got a 6 foot, I think it's actually 8 feet on the back. There it is. Yeah, it's actually 8 feet. He went back there with me and he goes, hey, can you screen it back here? Yes, sir. That dumpster has been getting screened back there since the end of July. And there's a padlock on there. It's actually not even mine. It's environmental's padlock. Their driver comes, unlocks it, pulls the garbage can out, empties it out, places it back in. So I do understand that I failed to not complete the task that the city has asked me to, but I did complete what I can do. The fence, same thing, we had contracted, I actually had contracted gentlemen that worked for Cedar Rustic. The biggest shortage of employees ever, supplies ever. Me personally, I don't know how to put a fence, but same thing, that was even delayed. When they didn't show up to do the fence, my crew and I went to Menards, and the only panels they had were damaged panels. So the panels that are sitting there today, half of them are actually damaged, but not in a way where it's structurally damaged, but they had some scratches, some gouges and whatnot. And we put the fence up ourselves. So, so I know there's some folks saying that, oh, they just don't care. That is not the case here. And then the other question was, why does the fence only go up to a certain point? Well, because that's the restriction and code of the city, that's not mine. And actually, when Jane came out to measure, she did her due diligence, she informed me, she goes, hey, Abe, don't mean to beat you up here, but you're actually about a foot over. So we're a foot over. And then the other question was, well, why didn't they do the entire fence? Well, when Mr. Jim Torrey and Jane were on our property, they said the chain link fence is fine prior to that, but after that, the previous owner had a 4-foot chain link fence that was falling apart, very rusted. They said, we'd like for you to change that fence out. So that's why that was done that way. But if the city would like for us to replace, the other side of it, so they all look uniform and parallel, that's fine. I'm willing to do that. I'm not arguing against that. Am I guilty of maybe not doing my job and not hiring the correct firm? Guilty as can be. I will say this is my first time. I've never, ever contacted an engineering firm. I didn't know what I was doing. So I only did what I could best do is interview X amount of companies, kind of like we all do when you're interviewing for someone to come work for you. You don't take the first person right there. Maybe you have to give them a chance though. So that's what my wife and I did. We happened to get burnt. It happens. And I apologize for that. And then not to mention that we're in the COVID year, but throughout the whole time, I've been in contact with Jane personally. I went to the CNC meeting, didn't see Georgine there, but I've always offered my personal phones, my personal time. I go to the neighborhood meetings because I do care. I'm not just a guy here today and not tomorrow. So I do feel that I'm part of the community, and I feel like I've done my due diligence. And I'm just asking, you can give us the extension. My wife and I, today we actually had a meeting with Ready County Readiness, and they're guaranteeing us the concrete to be poured. As soon as that site plan gets done, we already have another company, this is the second quote that we had. They came out on Sunday to review the scope of work, but unfortunately, until we don't get that site plan from Geotech, I can't get a proper quote. But I can't say with this extension, I will get this improvement done. I just ask that you give us a shot. I appreciate it.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes, sir.
I think I'll speak for myself, but possibly for others on the zoning board too. It isn't you necessarily or your company that's the issue for some of us. It's the fact that semis will be turning on and off of Route 52. That's not your fault. Well, it is if you invite them, obviously. But I think some of us are concerned about the traffic and the disruption of traffic caused by a semi tractor either pulling off or going on the road. That's certainly mine.
Just to add to that, and this is something that we had stated, because we had gathered some information on the council. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but down the street, so going north and south, that very same, when you're talking about the concern, Are you aware how Amazon and FedEx and UPS deliver to?
I am.
your house?
I am.
You
We,
know, they
we
call-
weren't, we weren't given a chance to reject that one.
There you go. And I'm not sitting here saying that, hey, just because someone's acting more dangerously, just give you my exception. No. So we hadn't even, and I think we might have done maybe coffee tractors, but there's enough room on that lot. And for anyone who's taking the time to go out there and look on the lot, to actually stand inside of the lot, even after the improvements are done, there's way more than enough space. And then not to mention the snow removal, I really don't see how that'll be an issue. We had record snow, last season, it wasn't an issue. All the snow got piled up right in front of the property. The landscape is actually being, I don't know, did Jimmy get off the out, did they put that other photo that's on, I don't know, James, sorry. So right where that pond is at, that's where the landscape is going. So, and then they're gonna go to the sidewalk going all the way down. Then we'll have an entrance. Our entrance on the front side, it was big, it was 24 feet wide. You have 12 feet to come in, you have 12 feet to exit. There's way more than enough room. I'm not looking to have a party of semi-trucks here, nor have we ever had. And then the reason for those people who's being parked all day there, sure, it does look a little bit crowded. We actually do have way more. We have 3 box trucks, 2 straight trucks, 2 delivery trucks. But we rented more space on 1530 North Broadway Street. I believe the owner of that property is Hot Topic Transportation. I'm not sure what's the legal name of the property. But we currently have 6 spaces there where we're parking all our box trucks and all our trucks. This one must have been taken at lunchtime. Sometimes my wife and I like to buy lunch for our guys. We all eat together. But that parking lot for everyone and anyone who goes up and down Hutchins and goes down Broadway and passes our location knows that lot sits empty 24/7. And on the weekends, we help out and we try. There was a fiasco within the community. There's so many cars that park on that restaurant in Music City Street. We were feeling, hey, we're not here, we're not operating on weekends. They park their cars there. And then I'm not here to be a nuisance. I'm not here to break any rules. I'm here just to run a clean, quiet operation. That's all I want to do. I'm not here to cause any trouble. As like I said, I attend the neighborhood meetings. I mean, I don't have to, but I attend. I always reach out to Mr. John Sheridan, who's always offering an invite, and I go. And I was there at the last meeting to give them an update. So the community's well aware of these delays as well. Not to say that it should excuse them, but unfortunately, this is a COVID year, and COVID has wreaked havoc on my project. And for that, I apologize. And I guess I would end with you complete.
Can you buy 1530 North Broadway? Can you purchase 1530 North Broadway?
Even when it was for sale, I couldn't purchase it. No, sir. I believe that property went for a little over $4 million. No, sir, I could not purchase 1530.
Any other questions? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak?
Thank you.
Oh, here comes trouble.
Swear you in. You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth under penalty of law.
I do.
Name and address, please.
John Sheridan, President of the Cunningham Neighborhood Council. I'm here today to talk in support of the business as I've done in the past. We took a vote back in the first part of the year when this business being established. 85% of our membership that voted were in favor of the business coming into the area. A lot of statements have been made surrounding the petitions, validity of the petitions, accusations about people getting payoffs to support the project, accusations about non-CNC members voting, etc. This year, many businesses have gone through a tough time with the COVID shutdown, as you're fully aware. It took a while to get the businesses restarted again. Get staff, a lot of businesses aren't even running because they don't have staff. Drywall windows are shut down because they can only do the inside work and so on. So you can understand the frustration about getting an engineering firm in. It kind of took everybody by surprise because this project, they didn't anticipate the problem with the sewer system, when they went ahead and put that condition in. And maybe that's why it was never done in the past, because they couldn't do it, whatever. I don't know what the engineers are gonna end up saying. But you can't do a lot of the work, like the striping, the parking lot, and so on, until that part's done. But not, because you're gonna be re-tearing it up if it goes into that area. And the good part is, at no time did Mr. Garcia attempt to put semi-tractors in there while the work was not being completed. He realized he hadn't conformed yet to the 17 conditions, not through his own fault, but he never once brought a semi-tractor in there and said, I'm gonna do this stuff anyway, and I'm just gonna keep working on the conditions and everything will be fine. He did ask me to come speak in our October membership meeting at CNC, and it kept the members updated as to the problems he was having, and they appreciated his response, and they gave him some guidance. And then Mr. Garcia reached out to me to support families in our area that needed holiday, that were kind of, in need of things for the holiday. He's the only businessman in Cunningham area that did that, and I got him connected with the proper people to go ahead and help those folks for the holiday. 2 businesses within 2 blocks of this gas station are in violation of their special use permit. No hearings have been held for them. One north, one south. The violations are obvious. And several businesses along that 2-block area have no garbage can containers enclosed, but yet you don't hear nothing about those. Several businesses across that street, and then probably in the city if we went out looking. Homeowner right next door parks 2 cars in the front lawn. I believe that's a violation of the city ordinance that was recently passed. Nobody, not a peep, not a word. I must remind you that the rules and ordinance, etc., need to be applied even-handedly to all the businesses in Joliet without discrimination. And it sure does sound like he may be treated differently. Box trucks, by the way, are just as large as a semi-tractor. Not larger for blocking a vehicle. You have permission to do that. I feel the city has far more important problems and issues that need addressing than beating this horse to death to prove some person's point or somebody's agenda. I have to represent the whole CNC area, the neighborhood, not just a few members. Majority of CNC membership that responded to the survey asked that you give Mr. Garcia an opportunity to show us he in fact will be a good neighbor. And I think he has demonstrated that here today about some of the things he's done. So I ask you to grant him the extension to get this project done, to continue the beautification of that area, rather than putting it on hold and saying, no, we're not going to do it, you just do your box trucks, your car tires, and so on and so forth. I'd like to see that corner finished. Beautify that area. It sat empty for a long time. And there's a few other businesses down there that could use some improvement also. So thank you for your time. I'd also like to wish you a happy holiday. Thank you.
Anyone else? Chair is going to close the petition to the floor and ask the board for discussion and a motion.
I have a question for the city. Just to clarify one more time, the city council overruled us, so there's no point in arguing with them. We might even get in trouble if we decided that semis were okay, or not okay, excuse me, because the city council has decided that they are okay, right?
So I suppose it's in your right to deny the extension, but the way staff looks at it, the city council supports this. And because of that, our original opposition has changed. It gave us precedent to support it also, or at least not be in opposition to it. Again, we need to focus that this is just to extend what the city council approved.
Okay.
And the extension's supposed to be based on those facts presented by the petitioner and his attorney, why those improvements didn't get completed in the time frame that they were supposed to get completed. So, under those circumstances, the way that was presented and the reasons they gave, should be your basis, in my opinion, on how you should look at this for just, again, the extension. Again, the extension is just for the larger trucks. Does that help?
Yes, it helps. So it's not a good idea to vote against this. What happens if we abstain?
Well, individuals could abstain, but I think no matter what, it's before us, so we need to make a motion. I would,
One way or another.
can I, I'm sorry.
It would be counterproductive at this point in time because of the limitations that this board has, not to proceed with this, because that's going to improve the property and it would be a negative effect not to do it.
Can I say something and then possibly make a motion? Obviously, when this came to us the very first time, I was opposed to the project. However, in this particular situation, I do think it would be unjust to not give you the opportunity to make the improvements. You've obviously made some of the improvements, and we are in unprecedented times. So I would like to make a motion for approval.
No, I haven't called for a motion.
Oh, well.
Is
Can
there
we
any
call?
other discussion? Any other questions or comments by the board?
I'd like to second,
We haven't
Bridget.
got a motion yet.
no, I meant second her comments about the difficulty of completing work at the current moment within 180 days. Time frame, anybody who's tried to get heavy equipment, skilled labor, or anything like that at a regular basis right now knows the specific difficulties of the current environment. And I would also think those are the sorts of criteria we should look at.
I would agree if that was the major issue, but I think for some of us, the major issue was the effect on the traffic on Broadway Street. And yes, we got whumped on that one by the city council, but it's still an issue.
Any other comments by the board? The chair has closed the petition to the floor. A motion would be in order.
I would like to officially make my motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the petition. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Pull the board.
Ms. Sanford?
Aye.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctree?
I abstain.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye.
You got it.
So the extension was approved, so they'll continue to work on that. We'll continue to monitor that and then make sure that the improvements are done by June 2022. Moving on to our next agenda item is 2021-65. The applicant is Hector Salazar. Location is 1120 Harrison Avenue. The request is a variation to reduce the front yard setback from 30 feet to 9.4 feet for a second floor overhang addition. Purpose, the applicant is requesting a variation to reduce the front yard setback from 30 feet to 9.4 feet to allow the continuation of a recently constructed second floor overhang addition located at 1120 Harrison Avenue. Zoning Board of Appeals makes the final decision in this matter. Under site-specific information, the subject property consists of a 9,396 square foot lot that has split zoning, R3 1 and 2 family residential and R2 single family residential. The pre-1900 house on the property is 2 stories in height. The home's original front porch appears to have been enclosed several decades ago. including the enclosed front porch, but prior to the second floor overhang, the first floor of the house sits back 11.4 inches from the front property line. Under surrounding zoning, land use, and character, to the north is R2 single-family residential, and there's a single-family home there. To the south is R2 single-family residential with a single-family home. To the east is R2 single-family residential with a single-family home. To the west is I1 light industrial, and that's Cedar Sanchez Elementary School. Under applicable regulations, section 47-7.4, R3 single-family residential yard and lot requirements, section 47-19.8, criteria for granting a variation, and you could refer to the attachment. Under discussion, the applicant constructed a second floor addition above their existing enclosed front porch without receiving building permits, and it was brought to the city's attention by a complaint. When the petitioner began to apply for the permit, it was discovered that the house had non-conforming setbacks due to the age of the house. The zoning ordinance allows pre-existing non-conformities to remain as long as the structures are not enlarged or altered in a way that increases their non-conformity. Constructing a second floor addition above their existing enclosed front porch increases the non-conformity. In addition, the second floor addition now extends beyond the first floor an additional 2 feet. Pictures of the house and porch alteration are attached. Second floor addition increases the size of the fourth bedroom and adds a fifth bedroom to the house. A site plan, floor plan, and elevations are included as attachments to the staff report. The applicant also applied for a building permit for a re-roof and concrete driveway in January 2020 and installed both without final approval and permit payment. Under conditions, if the zoning board desires to approve these variation requests to allow a second floor overhang addition, following conditions should be included. One, that the portion of the front yard shall be returned to turf as shown by the attached site improvement plan by June 30th, 2022. 2, that a building permit for the roof and driveway shall be obtained within 14 days of this approval. 3, that a building permit for the house addition shall be obtained within 14 days of this approval. And 4th, that the second floor addition shall be completed according to submitted elevations, including siding on the first and second stories that match the remainder of the home. And I want to say that the driveway and the driveway permits have been closed out by our building department. And that concludes our staff report.
Petitioner present? I must swear are you both going to speak? You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth on the penalty of law. Your name and address.
Mi nombre es
Speak
Héctor
into
Salazar.
the microphone.
Mi nombre es Héctor Salazar, 1120 Harrison, Joliet.
Thank you.
My name is Luz Ochoa, 904 Broadway Avenue, and I'm just here to help him with his translation.
All right, thank you. Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Pues sí que les pido disculpas por no haber sacado el permiso, pero ya tenía encima el contratista y el arquitecto pues no me respondía y solo que en base a la extensión la hice por mis hijas. Y ya están grandes y vivían muy reducidas.
So basically, he's saying that he's sorry for rushing and doing the extension without waiting for the permits, but he had the person that was going to do the addition and the architect was not getting to him, and his girls are growing and they really needed that space.
Anything else?
Pues que la extensión la estamos haciendo por mis hijas que viven muy reducidas en el espacio, por eso.
Well, just basically that extension is being done due to the needs of his daughter.
Is he going to live in the house?
I'm sorry,
Will he be the resident there?
they are the residents there.
Okay, no, not renting it out.
No.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question for the city. Jim, do you know if a structural engineer has looked at that cantilevered part of the front? See if it's safe?
Yeah, I mean, they've started to look at it in our building department, and we'll continue to look at it. If it's not structurally done correctly, they will correct it. They'll make them correct it. You know, they will, they don't like to get so involved when they know that there's variations required. The building department, they'll, they will do that if it hasn't been done already.
Yeah, because that could be a safety issue, big
Right.
time.
Yeah, they will not, if you approve this, they would not just rubber stamp approve it if it's not structurally done correctly.
Any other questions?
How many people live in the house?
That's safe.
6.
Pero hijos y mi esposa.
He has 4 kids and himself and his wife.
Anyone else? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Chair closes petition to the floor, asks the board for a motion, and
Motion to approve.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the petition. Pull the board.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctree?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Ms. Safford?
Aye.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Aye.
So that request has been approved. There's no need for city council with that request, so that's approved, and they can continue on getting their building permits.
Before an occupancy, are they continuing to live in there? Do they need an occupancy permit?
It will need an occupancy permit for the addition.
But that
But,
won't be until after it's approved, right?
Yeah, if it's not safe for them to live in now, they should not
I
be.
just wanted that in the record.
Yeah. Moving on through our agenda, under 7 is old new business, not for final action or recommendation. We have none. Under 8, public comments. This section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding non-agenda items. You're allowed a maximum of 4 minutes. It is not a question and answer period, and staff in the Zoning Board of Appeals does not generally respond to public comments. Please note speakers who engage in conduct injurious to the harmony of the Zoning Board of Appeals shall be called to the order by the presiding officer and may forfeit the opportunity to speak. Is there anyone that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we can move on to adjournment if that is your desire.
Now let's stay here.
Motion to adjourn would be in order.
I so move.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Pull the board.
Ms. Safford?
Yes.
Mr. Alessio?
Aye.
Mr. McShane?
Aye.
Mr. Noctree?
Aye.
Ms. Rohr?
Aye.
Mr. Hennessy?
Meeting is adjourned.
Everyone have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's.